Yeah, we start.
What is up, everybody, and welcome back to IFTV. Across from me, I only have one person. I only have Mike. Mike, I will say you're my favorite person on this podcast, though.
I wish I could say the same.
Wow.
Antonio's pretty
I just
funny.
gave you such a nice intro.
Your dad brings a lot of insights, and Peter... No, Peter's a good
What do I
team,
bring?
man.
At least give me one compliment.
You're good at foosball.
That is not bringing anything to this podcast.
You came in too nice, so I had to balance it out. You know, is that fair? At least.
Nice friend.
There we
Yeah,
go.
we're struggling today because we got Peter, who's on his little European trip again.
It's part 2.
Bella Vita from that guy, just going all over.
I want his life.
We texted him? I asked him. I said, "Are you in Brooklyn or are you still in Italy?" And he's like, "Nah, I'm in Spain or something."
Yeah, he
or
said
like
he's
Portugal.
just landing in Spain.
Yeah, he's like running around like he's like, and then I'm going back to Italy. My dad is busy working, and Antonio has to move his wife's furniture, something like that.
Furniture in general.
Yeah, I think it's definitely his wife.
Oh, it's his wife's furniture?
Yeah, he said it's a duty for his wife. So he might end up just running in here and popping in. He was trying to convince us to move the podcast back to tomorrow. I told him that we couldn't because we needed to film it today, and he was very upset with me. He said we're not allowed to do one without him, but he doesn't realize that we know how to turn the cameras on, and he doesn't.
It's not the first time he'd be upset with us, right?
That's true.
I think
it's
kind of
like every day.
Exactly.
By the way, we'll recap everything that happened with the Scudetto. We'll preview the last match day that we have coming up. We'll talk about Dybala, his last match with Juventus, as well as Chiellini. We had that with a few players, even with Insigne leaving Napoli. We'll give you our thoughts on all those things. But I got to start off with Mike. I was watching the clips of you guys at the final, the Coppa Italia final at Ribalta, which was the watch party at with Serie A in partnership with Serie A, and the videos of Antonio had me cracking up. This guy is a Milan fan. He went to Juventus against Inter, supporting Juventus, screaming Forza Juve with a Napoli kit on. Has he? I know he lost his mind, but like he's gone over the deep end now.
It's funny, Marco, because I actually brought that up too, because
Why did he wear?
A lot of IFTV fans were saying that. I was like, Anta, what are you doing with them? And when Juve scored, he was selling. I was like, Anta, what's going on? So first of all, he wore it because our good friend Rosario over there is Napolitano, and he said he wore it, to pay some respect towards him. And
that makes zero sense.
And he always liked Napoli because they were Southern teams. So after Milan, he liked Napoli in Serie A. And what was I gonna say?
Well, he told me the other reason why he wore it.
Wow.
He said also because, and this one made more sense to me. He said that De Laurentiis, because he owns Body as well. He's like, all right, so I got to support Napoli.
And the other one was because he wanted, first of all, he wanted to go down to penalties. He wanted Inter to be as tired as possible. So he wanted Juve to win to demoralize Inter.
How does
so
that
like that
explain
kind
the
of makes
Napoli
sense.
jersey?
No, but he wore that because of Rosario. But
the
that's why he was
Juventus
going for
part I get.
Juventus.
It was hilarious. Did you meet a lot of IFTV fans over there?
Yeah, there was a bunch. There was a bunch that even came by. Some of them just came by because they couldn't stay the whole time.
Nice.
I got a few people FaceTiming for their younger siblings that couldn't come because of school. I was like,
how many
crap.
people were there?
Rosario said around 150.
150 people.
Which is
on
great
like
turnout.
2 day notice, 1 day notice?
On a 1 day notice plus on a Wednesday and a weekday,
Nice.
which is pretty incredible.
Shout out to
great
Serie A.
support.
They we broke the news that their office officially opened in New York, but they're putting on like a bunch of events even across New York. So get in contact with us. We'll let you know what's happening, and then they have a big event coming by real soon. But my favorite video was Antonio chasing down New Yorkers, handing out cannoli and then the rainbow cookies. That perfectly describes who Antonio is. Like the mannerisms of him, like he was not doing that for video. I think you said like you just watched him do it and you went to go record him.
It was the funniest thing because I finally sat down. This was after the event, and I was like, let me sit down because I was running around like a maniac. I charged my phone. My phone was like pretty much dead. I sat down on the booth for a second, and I looked behind me was a glass. I see Antonio running with a box of rainbow cookies around. I was like, what's this guy doing? I ripped my phone off the charger, and then I was like, Anto's just handing out random people in New York these rainbow cookies, and I was like, I got to go outside and record them.
The best
and
part,
we're just doing 100 takes of people.
The best part was when one person took it, and then he said, take another one. Like,
for the road.
That killed
the
me.
one that pissed him off was for the people that didn't get. His face was so annoyed. It was like, these guys don't trust me.
Well, you reject in an Italian culture. Anyone who comes from an Italian family knows the one golden rule is don't reject food, especially from like an Italian mother or grandmother. I've learned it early on. Like you have to say yes to it. Otherwise, they take it as an offense. Like you don't like the food.
Yeah.
Like you look at it and you're like, oh, that's gross.
I get that, but I also get that this was a random person in New York City on the sidewalk. walk.
Honestly, I question the people that grabbed it from Antonio. Like,
That's what I'm
I would have
saying.
taken one look at that man and been like, I'm not grabbing anything from him.
Dude, I interrogated. It was like, you're just gonna believe him and eat it, and they just went with it. It's like, yeah, free cookies.
Anyway, let's talk about football. Shout out to everybody that came, and hopefully we'll do more events like that if they want it. Yo, Milan are unbelievable. They won 2-0 against Atalanta. This was the match that I thought to myself, I was like, all right, this is the game that they slip up on, because we know all the stats. We posted on our Instagram. Where it's like, oh, they haven't won since 2014 against Atalanta, blah, blah, blah. Atalanta style, everything that they had to play for. They still had this draw in their back of their pocket that they could play. So we said, all right, maybe tonight is the night that they slip up. And they looked, once again, just amazing with their most important player, Rafael Leao, who is on fire. But the entire team, the character they showed in this match to beat Atalanta, and an Atalanta where I know Atalanta's not the same. The magic is lost. That's without a doubt. But you still have to go out there and win this game with all the pressure that's riding on top of you. And they did it in convincing fashion, in my opinion. And what a team. I cannot believe that we are one round away. All Milan need to do is not lose, and they will be crowned Scudetto champions. If you told me this back in August, I would have told you, Mike, you are crazy.
And the funny thing is, Antonio was the only one that predicted this from our podcast, that Milan would win the Scudetto. It is very, very early, but I was doing the watch-along stream with Antonio, with Giuseppe and his wife Sabrina, and Anto's face, dude, even people in the comments were saying, even when Italy played North Macedonia, he was not nervous. Dude, his face was pale. He had knots in his stomach. It looked like the cat got his tongue. He was so quiet. He was so nervous. And it was such a relief when Milan scored, because he was so scared. There was like, what if we slip up? What if we're so close? He kissed the chair. Oh, he also switched. That you're sitting on. Yeah, he kissed the red. He also switched it midstream because they didn't score yet. Then they ended up scoring 2 goals. But it was such a huge win for Milan. There was a lot of question marks from my side too, thinking this is more of a mental obstacle more than anything. And by even though it's not the same Atalanta that we've been saying the past couple of seasons, it's still a very good team that they're still fighting for a European spot. So by winning this game, it showed a lot. And now there's one more game left, like you said, 1 point left. So
I love that you brought up the mentality. There was this quote from Pioli, which I absolutely loved, and I think sums up real well. I showed the team an interview with Kobe Bryant, who said at 2-0 up in the NBA playoff, the job is not done. We're not done. We need to maintain that calm and concentration that can in the end prove decisive. I mean, there's a couple things that we could break down here. I agree with you that this game was a mental challenge, because I think when you're thinking about this match, how much pressure is riding on it, mentally you need to be there, because I think it's clear that Milan's a better team than Atalanta, but the better team doesn't always win. But also to the mentality and the leadership that Pioli has brought to this team. We've kind of said this all year. You and I, to a fault, we did not think that Pioli was a good coach. I remember saying that last year. I thought that could have been their weakness. But he has found himself in the perfect place at the perfect time. I keep thinking back to how Milan looked in 2014, 2015, 2016. If you brought him in, it would have been a disaster. He would have been sacked in 6 months. He has found himself with the right group of players, in the right situation, with the right leadership behind him. I think that when you see the team, the way that they're built up, with the veterans like Zlatan, with like Giroud, who have won before, who know how to lead the team. But then you have the young talents who have shown great character like Tonali, Tomori, Kalulu, Leao, all these guys. I think Pioli doesn't need to overcoach them. And I think he's okay with taking a step back and allowing them to have that freedom of still being a leader and still teaching them things like what he's saying and maintaining the concentration, the mentality, but not overcoaching in the tactic side and letting good players do what they do best. I always think back to the quote that he says, there's some times in the locker room at halftime, Ibra does all the talking. I don't do that. For a coach, it's ego-based as well. A coach wants to say, no, I'm the one in charge. You think about an Antonio Conte, you would never imagine him allowing another player to talk an entire halftime. That's what, in my opinion, Pioli has done better than anyone else and better in this position than I think we could have imagined.
No, yeah, I agree with you too, Marco. And I think a lot of things aligned for this Milan team. Everything has been fitting the bill. Other teams slipping up obviously is gonna pay a big cost in this, but the unity from this Milan side, everyone has their back. Everyone loves the coach. Zlatan being the mentor, Giroud, there's champions on this team. And I think Giroud, we brought it up. We still got to confirm it 100%. I think he said a couple of seasons ago before he resigned, he said, if I could stay here for another couple more seasons. Yeah, Ibra. Ibra's. Oh, I said Giroud?
Yeah, Ibra said that, yeah.
If I sign for another couple of seasons, we're going to win the Scudetto. And we're just like all laughing. It's like, come on. I mean, Milan are doing good, but to win the Scudetto, you need something else. And 1 point away, it's crazy. It's right in the distance.
So what he said was, he came in January, and he said, if I was here for an entire season, from the beginning of the season, I would have won the Scudetto. And I will admit, I thought that he was absolutely crazy for even being able to say that. But it does go back to the unity of the team and the style that they brought. And I don't want to go too far because, listen, I still want to give respect, and Milan have a tough team to beat in the next match.
Yeah, Sassuolo.
And not just to beat, just to not lose. And I want to give Inter credit as well. But I will say that if Milan go on to do this, it's one of the great feats that I've been able to witness, is this Milan side winning the Scudetto. In my opinion, in an era of football that's dominated by money, and not necessarily towards Inter, but just towards the credit of Milan, the way that they were able to build this team on a budget by using brain power, being smarter than the rest, is beautiful. That's the beauty of calcio that I personally love. Again, they didn't win anything yet. They're very close. They just need 1 point to win the Scudetto. But at the moment, things are looking in their favor. The match is next week, Mike, Sunday May 22nd. And they will play at the same time as Inter. Inter have to take on Sampdoria. Sassuolo, it's in Sassuolo. They will take on Milan. As I mentioned, make sure you tune in, Paramount Plus, for all the show. We're actually doing a Golazzo show.
Oh,
so
nice.
we're going to be live.
Showing all of them?
We're live for like 5 hours, something like that. I don't know if I could even mention this, but we are.
Okay.
And
sneak peek.
Relegation, Scudetto, we're just going to be there and just keep switching back the entire time because of the drama that's going to be. So make sure you tune in. As you know, Paramount Plus are our premium sponsors of this podcast. They supported us in so many ways. If you're in the United States, that's the only place that you could catch Serie A, Champions League, and the Europa Conference League final.
And don't forget the link in the top of the description to check it out. We got incredible stuff more in the future to be doing with them. So exciting times ahead for sure.
Yes, a couple more announcements for them as well. So going into this final match, and then I want to shift gears to Inter as well. This match against Sassuolo, Mike. Sassuolo, we've labeled them as the Giants killer a couple of times because they constantly have gotten results against the big teams, but then will slip up in the small matches. Now Sassuolo's at a point in the season where they really don't have anything to play for. We even saw in their last few matches, they took a beating from Napoli. I will never question a team's professionalism in the way that they're going to approach a match. I think any team always wants to win. And I think for Sassuolo, while we say they have nothing to play for, it's also a team that's made up of young players. Maxime Lopez, Fratesi, Traore, Berardi, Scamacca. You made me lose my train of thought of the other young player that's there.
Traore, you said?
Raspadori. That was the guy I was looking for. They know all the eyes are on them in this match, and if they can spoil the party, they could have a huge transfer in the summer. This is their I know that their coming out party has been for the past 37 rounds, but this one, if you're the one, it's kind of like Farioni. You know how Farioni became a legend for Juventus because of his goal against Napoli?
Yeah.
If you do this against Milan, then you become that guy that everyone talks about for the rest of the summer and can get a big move. Having said that, how do you see this match playing out?
Well, first of all, if it wasn't already obvious, the president and Dionisio also came out and said we're not giving no gifts to Milan. We're going to play it, as a regular final or regular match. I think it's going to be extremely tough. The stadium's already sold out. It's pretty much going to be a home match for Milan because all the Milanisti traveled over there, got as many tickets. Probably lied a few times, said they're Sassuolo fans, so they can get
90,000 fans waited online in a stadium that's 20,000.
That's incredible.
But how do you see the match going?
I think this match is going to be very back and forth. It's going to be. I think this match is going to end in a stalemate. I gotta say, I think it's gonna be very back and forth. Milan they're gonna get to that point where they don't score early, and they're gonna kind of leave it too late and almost too scared to go and attack and risk going for the win. And I think they're just going to grind it out. And I think the game's going to end 0-0 with a good amount of chances.
You're literally asking for Antonio to have a heart attack.
But that's what I think it's going to be.
Right
that's what I think it's going to be. It's going to be one of those gut-wrenching final things. And I think Inter's going to win by like 3 or 4 goals, but it's not going to be enough.
Well, Inter, I think they're going to smack Sampdoria. Unfortunately,
exactly.
Sorry, Sampdoria fans, but I think Inter will win that match. I don't see Sampdoria doing anything. Obviously, the focus is on this game. And honestly, like I know some Sassuolo are a really tough team. I think tactically the match does favor Milan. They did lose the first match 3-1. Sassuolo won the first leg. But I think that as the season has progressed, Milan have done better against these sides that attack them. And I said the same thing about Atalanta. The fact that they take the game towards them, like they like to push numbers forward, Milan usually struggle against the teams that sit back. Sassuolo will not do that. And Sassuolo's defense is leaky. So I think Milan's going to win this match. And the fact that they only have a tie, I hope that they don't go into this, and I know that they won't, but I'm just bringing it up. I hope that they don't go into it thinking like all we need is a tie, because a lot of times you go in there thinking you need a tie, you come out with a loss.
The worst game scenario.
But they're one match away. That's the talk of Pioli and of the entire team. They're doing something that's incredible. They're very close. Let's talk about the other side. Let's talk about Inter, who did win their match against Cagliari. A Cagliari that was also fighting for their lives. For me, Inter, they just won the Coppa Italia final. They did a great job against Juventus. I know that there's controversy on the penalty kick, but besides that, I mean, Inter is just a way better team than Juventus. I know people say, but matches are decided by calls, and for me, it wasn't a penalty. But either way, Inter is just on a different level than Juventus. They've won 3 out of the past 4 matches against them in this season. Clearly the dominant team, and as that extra time progressed, Juventus were almost lucky that they didn't concede more, and they were not even competing at a relative level. Either way, that's not the point. That's not what we're talking about. How Inzaghi's season has gone, for me, and I'll still stand by this, even if Milan win the Scudetto, personally, Inter have played the style that I appreciate the most. There were times where they were unbelievable. Inzaghi brought this element to the squad that was brilliant. The attacking abilities, the way that the midfield got involved, the wing-back scoring goals, crossing it in, Lautaro Martinez being on fire, defensively being sound. Like, so many things to take away from this Inter that are incredible, and I think they played such a beautiful style, and I think he brought a great style to them. If they don't go on to win the Scudetto, I will say that, for me, it's not a failure. Like, yes, again, in my opinion, coming into the season, they are the best team. And I still say that if you go on paper, they are the best. Football's not won on paper. And they made mistakes along the way. They're not perfect. I think mentally, they've made poor decisions. I think back at moments where, there's games that are in the balance at 2-1 or 1-1, and they're pushing forward and overexposing themselves when they could play the ball around and be smart. And I think that's what Inzaghi will learn as time comes. He's not perfect, nor is this Inter side, but they're still a great squad. They still won 2 trophies this season, at least 2 trophies. It's a building block for the future. And they've done it without, no disrespect to Dzeko, but without a great number 9. Like, without a top-class, world-class number 9 that I think if they bring him in next season and bring in another center back, I think that you're looking at them and you're saying, again, they'll come in as the best team.
It's interesting, Marco, for this one because, like you said, they did win the 2 trophies. But I feel the Inter fans, if they don't manage to win the Scudetto, it would almost feel like a failure of the season. Only because they had the Scudetto in their hands. And the inexperience of Inzaghi, I believe, cost them the Scudetto. That 2-month period where he couldn't make his team snap out of it, where I feel like someone like Conte, who has that experience, could have done, is going to cost Inzaghi, and I think he's going to be kicking himself for it. But yeah, maybe on paper it's not a failure of a season, but just knowing that it was in your hands and the morale of it, it will feel that way. Why? But incredible football by Inter, great stuff. First season, for Inzaghi from a team like Lazio go to a team like Inter that would be fighting for all fronts. It's a big step. But, all those small details matter for stuff like that.
He needs to improve his substitutions, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned Conte. I mean, we're not going to cry over, what is it? What's
Spilled milk?
Spilled milk? There. Yeah. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate the assist. He would have won this league. I mean, he would have won this league and it would not have gone back to the end. And credit to Milan for being where they are. And I think they had to do that and they did incredible. But I think that this Inter side wouldn't have lost that concentration at a point where I think December, January, we were looking at this and we're like, Inter's going to run. Mike Grella, who's on the Paramount Plus with us, he said Inter were going to win in double digits. Let's go that. He exaggerated completely, obviously. But the feeling was that I was ready to bet everything that Inter was going to win the league. And I think Conte psychologically would have brought this team to the end. But at the same time, I think in the long run, Inzaghi's style, his mentality, not his mentality, I take that back. His tactics, I think will suit Inter in the long run, especially considering when they go into Europe. Because I think they play the right style of football, but they need to fix things.
Yeah, and that also with the Inzaghi thing, I do think Inzaghi in Europe is better than Conte in Europe that we've seen.
It's only 1 year.
It's only 1 year,
Let's see.
But the thing with Inzaghi, he is more versatile with his players. He's not as rigid as Conte, and the goals come from different players rather than your
Conte played good against Real Madrid.
Strikers.
Let's not forget that. At the Bernabeu,
Yeah.
Conte did an incredible performance.
That's true.
I know neither of them went through. They didn't go far enough that they should have, but Inzaghi as well against Liverpool. I mean, the only thing that was lacking, in my opinion, were the substitutions. It was the real character at that next level.
Exactly.
When you're competing against the best in the business. Speaking about that, Lautaro Martinez has done unbelievable this year. I have his stats right here. His first year, he scored 6 goals. His second year at Inter, he scored 14. His third, 17. He is now currently at 21. The stock keeps rising for Lautaro Martinez. He has stepped up as the leader in this position. Now, when you're Inter, number one, where do you rank Lautaro amongst the best strikers in Serie A?
The top strikers in Serie A, I think it's safe to say he would be top 3 or 4.
Top 3.
I think he earned that, and a lot of people still have a lot of criticism of him overall. But I think just as a developing player, he's only going to get better from here. The more minutes he gets, and having a different striking partnership from last year to this season, it's hard to adapt. Having someone like Lukaku, and then switching, with all due respect to Dzeko, he's not the same kind of player. So he's
nowhere near Lukaku.
He had to adapt to that, which says a lot. And with a new coach, with kind of a different mentality, I think he's done a phenomenal job. I know you were a little critical of him for last season. Has he proved anything to you? Proved you wrong at all, or anything changed on your perspective?
And he went through that drought, right? He went through that drought in Serie A where he scored against Salernitana and then he didn't score for a couple of months.
Mid-season. Yeah.
I know he scored in the Champions League, right? He scored against Liverpool, if I remember correctly, right? For me, Lautaro, he does a lot of really good things. I love his attitude. I love his character. I love the spirit of just being aggressive and dying for a goal. Personally, those kind of players that want to fight for every single ball.
You can't teach that too.
He makes mistakes. He's still young.
Yeah.
He makes mistakes that bother me though.
Okay.
Like decision mistakes where there are simple things that he could do and I feel like he overthinks it or overcomplicates it.
Decision making?
His decision making at times lacks. Like that's something that you could learn though.
Yeah.
He's shown that for me, if you're Inter, you're looking at what he's done this season, he's proved me wrong for sure. You got to keep going forward with him. You should make him, obviously he's the number 10, but he's the man.
The franchise
to look
player,
for.
like Antonio would say.
If Antonio was here, he'd be very happy with us. The thing is, we saw Dybala. We saw, obviously, the tears, whatever. Can Dybala fit this Inter? The rumors are very heavy that he's going to this Inter, and I have my doubts.
You want me to go first? I mean, we were talking a little bit about this before the podcast starting. It is a strange formation where Dybala doesn't really fit in here. But if you want to keep that 3-man backline, we know Inzaghi really loves. I would potentially swap him for Hakan, Dybala in the starting lineup, and change it to a 3-4-1-2.
You're wild. You're shocked, bro.
Because I don't think Dybala is a number 9. I think he has to play behind the strikers.
Everybody agrees with that.
Personally, I think that's where he will excel the most if he does go to Inter.
You cannot sub Hakan out. Hakan has been one of the best midfielders in Serie A. He has impressed me in ways that I can't believe. He's completely turned into a mezzala. He fights for balls, even in defense, which we never saw before. Before, he was just like this attacking player that sometimes played left wing, attacking. I did not like him at all at Milan.
Okay.
He has completely won me over. The balance in the midfield of Hakan, Brozovic, and Barella, there is no way in hell. There are a few players in the world that I would touch that midfield for, And one of them is certainly not Dybala.
If Dybala stays consistent and injury-free, I think
Those
he
are
can.
massive ifs.
They are massive ifs, but I'm saying in a utopian society, if
We
Dybala,
don't live in that, Mike. We live in the
I
real
know,
world.
but I
bro,
like dreaming
where
sometimes.
stuff happens.
I think Dybala could offer more in attack than Hakan can. And I get, yes, I understand you're going to say, oh, but he doesn't defend. He's not as aggressive coming back. Yeah, I get that. But how much more goals would Inter get if he's healthy, if he puts up...
I think you're looking at it the wrong way.
Why?
I think that Dybala, the only way that he works at Inter, in my opinion, is if they got a crazy offer for Lautaro, 60 million plus, they sold him, and then he's the replacement, which, in my opinion, I wouldn't do if I'm Inter at this moment. I don't see how Dybala is going to work with Lautaro in that same formation. And if I'm Inzaghi, I would not switch the formation for a player like Inzaghi, for a player like Dybala. You could switch the formation, but not for Dybala. I wouldn't change the whole thing around a guy that's shown that he can't stay consistent, that you can't build a project around. That's my opinion. I don't think it works. I think he would be a better fit at a different side. Maybe a Roma, for example. I think he would fit. My two teams for Dybala are Milan. I think Milan fits him the absolute best. That is the player that they need. Or Roma.
It's just not linked to them. To Milan.
Yeah, he's not really linked to them.
But that would be a cool fantasy.
Let's talk about the whole Juventus match. We'll talk about Dybala and Chiellini. Obviously, the game against Lazio was crazy.
True.
Milinkovic-Savic scored at the 96th minute to get them Europa League.
Great rebound,
last
man.
second. The guy is unbelievable.
What a rifle to the...
My personal favorite center midfielder in Italy. I'll say maybe in the world. Double digits in goals and assists. You don't get a guy like that. You don't get a guy that big that's so good on the ball and is so decisive.
He's very well-rounded.
I love him.
He's very well-rounded.
I love him. I really love him.
Would you take him instead of Pogba for Juve?
Well, yeah.
You would, 100%?
Yeah. But I don't think he could go to Juventus, and I don't think it's possible. I think 70 million is too much.
But you take
for
him,
Juventus to pay.
but
Not that he's worth it.
But you give him the edge over Pogba.
Oh, easy. It's not even close. Not even close. But anyway, storyline. The big storylines were Chiellini, who obviously played his final home match with Juventus. It was sad. He played 17 minutes to represent the 17 years that he spent at Juventus. Going off with smiles like you would imagine Chiellini does. He's got such a good attitude about him. For me personally, it was hard to watch because we've got his jersey over there. I'm reading it. He even wrote a Marco over there. Con amicizia, with friendship.
There we go. Got it.
For me personally, to watch a player like Chiellini leave is almost like watching the last of a generation go, because the way that I grew up watching football and the way that I played, the way that I admired, the way that it was taught to me from my family was this kind of player. Chiellini really represents the typical hard-nosed Italian old-school defender that takes no prisoners, that goes in and gives his all every single match, that is willing to sacrifice his entire body for the badge and for his teammates. And I feel like that's one of the things that we're losing in football a lot of the time, right? We look at defenders who score goals.
Sure.
We look at defenders who do all this.
Play with their feet.
But man, Chiellini is one of the best, for me, over the last decade, the best defender that I've been able to watch. And personally, one of my favorite players and people. Like, even what he's done off the field, the type of person that he acts. I mean, he even he went to college to get his degree. Like,
he's a doctor.
He's a smart guy. All of that well-roundedness of him. Like, I feel like that kind of even intelligent player, and I know people get mad at some of the antics that he does, right? How he'll fall into you and get a foul. But those are the things that you're kind of like taught, right? Like that's what we grew up on. It's being smarter than the opposition. And I don't know, he just represents everything, in my opinion, that's beautiful about football. And to see him go, and I know, he's not retiring, he's going to go to MLS or wherever he's going to go, but to not see him in Serie A week after week, I hope, Allegri said this best, I hope that they show videos of this guy to all the kids. I hope that we still breed kids like this, defenders like this.
Yeah, I mean, just like we were saying before, like he's in that generation with Buffon. It's like dying generation, but I do feel like with him leaving, I think De Ligt has similar. I feel like Chiellini maybe embedded some of that personality to him, because De Ligt isn't your average modern center back. He's more of the old school, traditional
Besides
kind of.
how he likes to go up.
Yeah, except
that's
that
the only part of him that makes me feel like you're not Chiellini.
that's true. But
Because he loves to just run forward.
he maybe he's a mix of past and present.
Because he even told me that he likes to win games 3-0 and not 1-0.
Jeez.
That's definitely, I think Chiellini would rather win 1-0.
That's true. He's more of that those gritty
Let's grind it
defenders,
out.
right? Exactly. But it is gonna be sad because the past few years we've been seeing these kinds of players, especially Italian champions, retiring and all that stuff. I believe
old, bro.
Bonucci's the only one left, right, from that like golden
BBBC.
generation. So Barzagli we know has been retired. Chiellini,
He's the
and
weird
then
one.
Buffon, of
Chiellini's the
course.
weird one because I literally remember when he was making his debut. I literally remember when he was popping up when he was playing for Juventus in Serie B. Like I remember the name coming up, and so like I watched him from his beginning of his career to now, which feels weird because a lot of I was talking to Francesco and Calcio, if anyone on Twitter follows him, but he was saying the same thing. He's like, Totti and like player Baggio, all those guys, like we watched like them at a different point in their career.
Yeah.
We didn't really see them as kids and then for them to grow up. So Chiellini is a weird one for me. So Dybala was the other one who he was playing his final game for Juventus at home, not retiring, obviously going to a different team. But I think what made the headlines, and I even saw CBS posted the video of him crying and had like 5 million views, 6 million views, something like that, which is crazy. It's because we never really seen a player like that break down before. Like a player that's not retiring to leave his club, and he was crying that like, man, even at first I was like, okay, Dybala's moving on. It didn't really feel crazy, right? But when I saw his face, I said, my gosh, this kid, this little boy who came to Juventus, fell in love with this club. And you could tell that he did not want to leave. You could tell that this is like, he was losing a part of him that he was not in control of. And I think that's why you see Chiellini smiling because he came to this, it's sad that he's leaving, but he's at peace with it. It was his decision.
Exactly.
This was not Dybala's decision.
And Mar, I have a question for you. There's some talks about Dybala and stuff like that. I want to ask you, for you personally, do you think Dybala is a Juventus legend?
This word legend gets thrown around a lot lately, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I think for kids that are growing up as Juventus fans, and I've seen the reception from younger fans, he's a legend for them. Like he was there. He never became Del Piero, obviously.
Yeah.
And for us older ones, you remember Del Piero, and we're like, okay, Dybala was nothing like Del Piero. But for young kids, he was the number 10. He was the leader. He's the one that they put on the back of their shirts and they do his celebration, just like we used to do the tongues out. Yeah. So for them, he's a legend, and I respect that. I get that. Did he fulfill his potential? I think that he became he was an incredible player. He did unbelievable things at times. I think a lot was out of his control with injuries and with things not going his way. And every time he got to that level where, he did those goals against Barcelona, and I said, my gosh, this is his breakout, he would have a dip one way or another. Whether it's an injury, whether it was something off the field, whether it was, somebody else being signed. Like, there was always something. And I think a lot of it was out of his control. But I feel for the kid. And I think that I think Juventus is not making the wrong decision moving away from Dybala, because I don't think that he's going to fit the 4-3-3 system that Allegri wants to play. My problem is the way that they go about it. I mean, you promise this guy in October a contract, right? You say, okay, we're all good. Yeah. We're going to do it in January because of accounting reasons. And then you pull it under the rug in the way that you do, and then you don't even offer him a lower amount. I get that things change. This is football. It's a business. But part of being a good business person and running a good business is also treating people and players the right way, because that's a reception of your brand. That's a reception of everything you're about. So when I see people say, oh, it's business, it's cutthroat, it's like, but that's not good business. It's not good business to just screw over
your
players, in my opinion.
No, yeah.
That I know the whole story, that's just to clear it up. It's a good thing that you brought it up. Vlahovic signing, Arriva Bene said, once we signed Vlahovic, Dybala had his foot out the door. We shifted our focus because Vlahovic became the center of our project, and they're not going to pay these guys the same amount. And they did not even make Dybala a lower offer. They said, we don't want to insult you with such a low offer. Just go your separate ways.
Yeah.
I don't like the way that they treated him. Is more so my problem than it is sporting-wise wanting to move away from him.
So you wouldn't blame him if he goes to, like, say, their rivals, Inter or something like that?
Personally, I don't, because even if you're in his situation, right, you love a club, right? And there's a difference because the logo of Juventus means a lot of different things, right? It's what he fell in love with. He fell in love with the fans, his teammates. Does he get along with the management though? Like, I can understand him wanting to spite the guys that say, "Oh, you don't believe in me? Watch me go to your rivals and watch me prove you wrong." Now, for all the Juventus fans that love him, that's the worst thing that could possibly happen. As a professional, if we want to talk about being professional and being cutthroat, why shouldn't he go to the next, best opportunity
for him?
Yeah. We also don't know what offers he has. Like, does he have offers outside that he doesn't want to take? I'm just the type. I've told you this before. I'm okay with players going anywhere. Like, I don't care about that. There are specific players that I care about that I'm like, I don't want to see them go. Like Totti with Roma, Maldini with Milan, Zanetti with Inter, Del Piero. Those are the ones that make it special for me. Those are the ones where I say, you know what, they're in a select group. And even if you like Dybala, you like all these other players, they don't all have to be at that. They don't have to. Yeah, they don't have to, and you can still enjoy them. That's how I am, and I want to see Dybala week in and week out personally because I love the player. I think on his day he's one of the most. He is the most talented player in Serie A.
That's a good point on that because first of all, you don't know what if he wants to stay in Serie A. What if he loves Italy and he wants to just go to another competitive team? And maybe it seems like a slap in the face, but he wants to do what's best for him. And
his family too.
Exactly, there's a lot of things, and I think I kept Dybala in higher pedestal than everyone else, especially in the podcast, because I always saw world-class glimpses of him, and I always thought he's gonna be the next big thing, and I feel like he never amounted to that, and it kind of hurt me, and I was like, man, it's such a shame because these injuries and all these down waves of him not performing, it sucks to see. So that's why I kind of want him to go to another top team, and of course Serie A, because that's all we watch, and kind of fulfill and hope, that he could fulfill that potential that at least I had for him, becoming that world-class player. So that's where I feel like maybe I'm thinking unrealistically, but I know I just seen he's done world-class things, and I just want him to become that world-class player that maybe I had my mind set on, even though maybe he's not, or maybe he is. He just needs a different environment. Who knows?
The one thing I would say is I would be wary. Is it wary or word?
Wary.
I would be wary.
Wary.
I would be wary, like aware.
Yeah,
Thank
wary.
you. English lessons. There we go. That's what you get on the IFTV podcast. I'd be wary of making a project around Dybala.
Yeah, I get that.
That's the one thing I would say.
That.
If you add him as a big bonus, and you still have another player, then it's good. Then yes. The only thing is now I just said that he's you have a rotation player that makes $8 million a year. The two kind of don't mix up. Yeah. So you're in between a rock and a hard place. Let's move on to another player that has goodbye and a very emotional one. Lorenzo Insigne with Napoli. I knew he was going to score. He stepped up to take the penalty kick. He hit the post, and then they really let him retake it. That was like the footballing gods looking down on him and being like, "We got you, man. You did so much for Napoli." He scored it. It was his 122nd goal for Napoli in their all-time goal-scoring rank, overtaking Marek Hamsik. So on his last day, he became number 2 in Napoli's history. A man that has a tattoo of the logo. You won't find anyone more Napolitano than Lorenzo Insigne. And he's another guy that fans are split. I spoke to Ludo. Mm-hmm. He says, we're 50-50 on Lorenzo Insigne's time at Napoli. He says the older generation, the generation that grew up with the Maradonas, with the top players, don't feel that way about Insigne and are not as attached to Insigne. They don't think that he became that because in the tough moments, in the moments when it really mattered to try to lead them to glory, lead them to the promised land, he wasn't there and he couldn't show up. But then there's also the other set of fans where they appreciate everything that Insigne did. And I think the one thing you can't deny is that every time he put the jersey, he fought for it. Yeah. He never disrespected. He always wanted to stay at Napoli. He fought for the shirt. He was incredibly talented, really talented. Now, you want to say in the big games, sometimes he didn't show up, this and that. For me, I appreciate Insigne for what he was to the people of Napoli, the leader he was, especially for the young fans. He's a guy that could create something out of nothing. His iconic tiragiro that, we don't often see, we hadn't seen since like a guy like Del Piero. He brought that to the league. He brought that to Napoli. And I think it's hard for a kid that's from Napoli to play for Napoli. They're held to such a higher standard. Extremely like a guy like Mertens, for example, is never scrutinized the way that Insigne is.
Exactly.
And that's a hard pressure, and not everyone's built for that pressure, and I'm okay with saying, like, maybe that's one of his faults, and you could still appreciate him for how good he was.
No, I get that 100%. And first of all, Insigne was one of the players. He literally gave everything for the jersey. He lived, breathed, died Napoli, the culture over there. He never wanted to betray the fans. He always stayed there. And the biggest thing for me is he never gave up. Yeah, you can say he didn't pull up to these some expectations. Some of them, saying, "Oh, he'll never be as good as Maradona."
Wow.
But dude,
nobody's as good.
Yeah,
as
I know. But whatever. You said Napoli to tippity top. But he gave everything there is. What else do you want from someone that gives 100%? I understand there was some falling out, some fights, stuff like that. But he was true to the club. And not many players, especially now, could say that.
And damn talented.
Extremely talented. Especially, being born and raised there. It's very difficult. And I know a lot of people are split because, yes, he's going to TFC. People are saying he abandoned them. Antonio on the live stream, I don't know if you saw, but he called him a traitor for leaving. I was like, Anto, how is that?
What Antonio says
no,
too serious, bro.
But he said that stuff, and I was like, Anto, first of all, you don't put Donnarumma as a traitor for leaving at PSG, but you put Insigne.
Why are you trying to rationalize?
But I don't know, that just annoyed me. But some people actually still think like that, saying that he's a traitor. But I think Insigne really gave everything he has. Huge Napoli legend, and he always leaves everything on the pitch. So for me, I'm happy with his performances, and I'm definitely on the side of being an Insigne fan for sure.
I wonder how the narrative would have been different if he was able to lift the Scudetto with Sarri that time.
Yeah,
I wonder if I think people would have given him the even more respect that he deserves. But Napoli is a tough place to win. Also, I saw the rumors of Scamacca possibly to Napoli, but if Osimhen would leave. Interesting idea. Let me see who was reporting it. I just saw on our Instagram. It was Corriere dello Sport. They're saying that Spalletti wants to build off of Ospina, Koulibaly, Anguissa, and if a crazy offer comes for Osimhen, that they will go for Scamacca. Real quick, I mean, that just no point of talking about that. Spalletti is the guy to build on Napoli, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Because I see the crazy narrative online that Spalletti failed. That is ridiculous. I said it in the last podcast. The only thing he failed is that he set the expectations so high with his incredible start.
Of the season.
But hey, guess what? What do you want the guy to do? Lose games? Like, getting top 4 was the goal for Napoli. He achieved that goal. Build with this player. Build with this coach. Like, who are you going to get? I see some fans saying Italiano. Italiano's a great coach. He's doing really good at Fiorentina. But let's not joke ourselves.
Don't take away anything from
Spalletti. You cannot sack Spalletti for getting them top 4.
That's nonsense.
That's ridiculous.
100%.
So I want to make that clear.
I do think, though, if Spalletti didn't have... He almost shot himself in the foot. In a good way, because he started off so good and maybe lagged behind towards the end. If he didn't start off so good, I don't think Napoli fans would be as critical.
Okay, how about just be smarter and realize that that's the case?
100%. But that a lot of people are thinking emotionally rather than rationally on this part. So that's why I feel like
we're gonna hold it against him for starting 100%.
So good. But fans are with this sport, it's very emotional. So that's how a lot of fans think, unfortunately. But Spalletti, I think he's a future for Napoli for the next few years for sure. I think he's building something special, and we'll see.
Great quotes from Mourinho. We're going to do a preview of the Conference League as it gets closer, because right now the talking points for Roma are not too much. I love the quote from Mourinho. I wanted to read it. I got emotional going under the Curva Sud, seeing the celebration. These people deserve everything. I've experienced this after winning championships, not after a draw at home and in this position in the table. It's an incredible social phenomenon. So yeah, that love story just keeps continuing, and I pray that he's able to give these fans a trophy, and I think that he wants it more than anything. Like I said, we'll do a bigger deep dive. We're going to keep this episode short. Last two things, let's just talk about the two relegation sides. Genoa and Venezia officially relegated. Two American-owned teams as well. For Venezia, I hate to say it, but when we were talking about this in August, we kind of figured that they were going to go down. In my opinion, they broke the golden rule of Serie A. Just the way that I've been watching this league for 20 years. It's you get experienced players who know the league, and they got a lot of like these random guys from all over the place that were a little bit young and not understanding Serie A. And for me, the teams that do really well are the ones that bet on experience, and I'll loop even Genoa in this too. Think about Empoli with Andrea Azzoli, a coach that's been around for a long time. Getting players who have been there for a long time. I even think about the match Benevento-Ascoli, which we watch in Serie B. Who's the one who scores the goal? Lapadula, who's been around in Serie A for a long time. Yep. Glick, who's their defender. Like, those kind of things matter in our league. And I think for Venezia, that was a tough point. They had great moments. I think Zanetti really brought a nice style. I know that he got sacked in the end. They will be back. I'm sure they'll be back. And hopefully with a stronger foundation. For Genoa, this one is really sad. Losing Genoa in Serie A is ridiculous. 15 seasons in Serie A. I almost don't remember a Serie A without this club in it. But at the end of the day, meritocracy wins. They deserve to go down. They, for so long, were flirting with relegation.
They were.
They rested on their laurels, and they've made bad business decisions. Once again, I'll just add for them, they broke the rule of Serie A. Blessin was one of the most ridiculous choices for a coach. You could talk about the style. You could talk about what he brings. I think Blessin can become a really good coach, but he wasn't right for Genoa at that time. When you get into that moment, you need a fighter. You need a Davide Nicola, a Beppe Iacchini, somebody who has been in the trenches of Serie A relegation and rallies the team together. Not brings a whole new style to the team. They also made the mistake with Shevchenko, bringing in Shevchenko for a couple matches in a spell that was so difficult, and then they sacked him. Like, I'm sorry, but if you make those decisions, you kind of deserve to go down.
It sucks for the Genoa part because, like you said, they've been there for so long. We're going to miss a Serie A derby, of course.
True.
And the other thing is, bought American owners looking for an ambitious project. Another thing is they're one of the teams with the most new players that they bought through the Mercato. So, yeah, you can't say they weren't trying, but maybe they were a little too ambitious from what they were doing. Rather than playing it safer, they try to throw the original plans out the window and try this new philosophy, try new players, when realistically, now we know that wasn't working. And it sucks because they were really trying to do something different, but that trying something different doesn't always work, and you could pay for it dearly, just like we're seeing now.
I have a pushback to that though. I don't think the signing 11 players is the problem, because Sabatini at Salernitana signed 11 players in January, and look what they were able to do. I don't think it's the number of players. I think it's the ideas and the players that they bring in that actually perform, rather than just, okay, we have to sign a lot of players. But either way, they're going down. It sucks. Make sure you guys tune in. We're going to be live streaming, I know for sure, the Scudetto race, both the Inter and Milan games at the same time. We're going to have a Scudetto winner. This is one of the best Serie A seasons that I can remember in recent history. This is what we've been begging for. We've been begging for the Serie A to go to the final match day where anything could happen. I know we gave so much credit to Milan, but we could easily be sitting here next week at the same time and saying Inter have won the league. Inter pulled it off out of some miracle out of their back pocket.
Marco, give us the title right now if Inter manages to come back. Just go jump at. If Inter manages to
No, I'm going to say it. No, I can't say it. That's a tease.
Give both of them. Give Milan if Milan win and if Inter win.
My original prediction was Inter was going to win. So I'm going to stick with that. Inter somehow wins the title.
But you're just saying it just to say it.
No, I can't flip-flop now.
On the other hand, I have no shame. Milan's winning.
Milan's winning.
Yeah. If they manage to choke this and lose this game, this would be historically horrible. But I think they're going to do what it takes. It's going to be gut-wrenching. Antonio, I'm sorry. But I think they're just going to get the job done. And Inter's going to win, but it's not going to matter.
You know what we need to do? We need to find the clip of Antonio saying that the Scudetto is toilet paper when Milan was not doing well, because he was, that was his defense mechanism. Yeah. And then show him that clip as he's celebrating. But on the real, IFTV has never seen Antonio win the league title. So
Antonio win.
Yeah, like Antonio's celebrating, like he never gets to celebrate.
That's
he only gets to celebrate matches. Like the amount of shit talking that's going to happen for this next year if he wins, I'm all for it. I am so for it. At the same end, the team that goes down, do you say is?
I'm going to say it's Cagliari.
Cagliari's
going down.
I'm going to say Salernitana go down.
Salernitana?
Yeah.
Oh, buddy.
I don't know why.
By the way, Lico Yannis' goal against Inter, dude, that was something else.
He had another shot that
was
great too.
Do you know Udinese is already interested in him? So he's already going to go to another Serie A club if they do manage to go down. But they're not flirting with relegation, Udine, right?
He's not going to
He'll be
start.
fine.
No.
Yeah, I think he could start. They play as a wing back
Udoji's
formation.
going to leave. That's why.
Yeah, probably. Whatever.
That's a good sign. No, I'm going to say Salernitana go down. I don't know why. I feel like.
Damn.
Because everybody's so
Really?
like hyped on it. I feel like we've like jinxed them.
Nah, I don't know.
We'll see. We'll see
Yeah,
what happens.
we'll
We'll be around. Make sure to subscribe, like. Last bit of news actually before we leave. Di Maria. It seems like he's going to be joining Juventus on a 1 or 2 year deal, 7 million euros a season. It's caused a lot of controversy, a lot of stir up amongst the Juventus fans. Your quick take on it before we go?
Well, I haven't seen too much about him. The past few seasons, I haven't been watching PSG, and when I do, I feel like he hasn't really been starting. Well, you know, when Di Maria was in his prime, I think he was obviously a top footballer, great assist, knows how to score. A good bit of news is he's still a starter for Argentina. I know Marco's been going around asking anyone who maybe remotely watches a half a minute of PSG if they know anything about Di Maria. So, guys, if you know anything about PSG or Di Maria, for Marco, say something positive, nothing negative, because whoever he asks, he feels like he's getting the shorter end of the stick here.
My 2 cents is, I know you mentioned him starting. I think looking at that stat is jaded because he's got Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anyone else in the world
He's
will
also 34
sit on the
too.
bench. For me, like the thing about Di Maria is he would fit the idea of what Juventus have or what they're going for. 4-3-3 formation. He's the perfect style of player that they need. A man that could dribble his man, send a cross in. They need somebody who can give assists to Vlahovic and service Vlahovic. That's what Di Maria does, right? He fits the style of what they want. Juventus don't have the funds to be able to invest in somebody up top. So when everyone says you don't want Di Maria, but who do you want? Dybala doesn't fit the 4-3-3 for the people that are going to say him. The people that want all these huge names, Juventus is not spending the money up top. They need a free transfer. For me, Di Maria, I think he could fit perfect. Chiesa, Vlahovic, Di Maria up front is a deadly attack. My only doubt, and this is where I admit, I haven't seen him play. I don't know his fitness.
The biggest thing. Oh, I just haven't seen him play
in the last year. In the last year, I know what he was, and what he was beautiful.
Of course.
If he can stay fit, and this is my if, has he been injured a lot? Has he struggled with fitness? If he hasn't, I think he'll tear Serie A apart.
But how the thing is, how much time could he give you? Is he going to be
no, just 1 year. 1 year.
No, I'm saying how many games could he guarantee you is what I'm saying. Because
that's the thing I can't answer.
Because at the end of the day, if you're wanting him to be a starter, it's very demanding for a 34-year-old to be a starter who hasn't been playing the past few seasons. No, I'm not going against. I don't know, I'm not the sporting director of Juve making millions of dollars.
Okay, but I'm just saying for the people that are commenting like,
yeah, I know.
Oh, you can't go.
You took that personally with me, bro. I'm just saying what's on the table.
Because I'm like, yo, but you got to provide an alternative. Like, you can't just say
I'm not attacking.
Something.
I'm just saying what's on the table. That's what I'm saying.
I'm just saying, like, you got to provide somebody else.
I'm also saying I'm not the sporting director
if you want,
too.
I know Dybala. The big argument is Dybala. Dybala is clearly completely out of the plans.
Yeah.
He doesn't fit the 4-3-3. I see Ryan commenting that on our page. But they want to play 4-3-3. He doesn't play in the 4-3-3. Like, he's not that style of player that they want. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. We'll talk to you soon. Ciao, ragazzi.
Ciao, guys.